What is happening to Penn State football? Currently, for the 2020 college football season, Penn State stands at 0-4, and originally they started off as a top 10 team to begin their season. And right now, if they don't win out the rest of their season, this will be their first losing season since the 2004 college football season, where they went 4-7. I mean, this is the same Penn State team coming off a strong 2019 season when they went 11-2 and even won the Cotton Bowl. But what is happening to Penn State football? Going into the 2020 college football season, well, pretty much the middle of the college football season when the Big Ten actually started to play some football, according to the AP Top 25 poll, Penn State was ranked as the 7th best team going into their season. But also, before Penn State would start their season off, their best defensive player and projected top 10 pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Micah Parsons, would opt out of the 2020 college football season. Not only that, their starting running back, who was projected to be a day 2 selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, Journey Brown, who was probably one of the more underrated running backs going into this college football season, wasn't able to play in the beginning, and recently, just this past week, had to medically... So far, for the 2020 college football season, Penn State, in the rankings for offense and defense, it's not looking very good for them right now. On offense, they are ranked as the 86th best offense in the nation, compared to last season, where they're ranked as the 15th best offense in the nation. And the biggest decrease from last year to this year, last year on defense, they're ranked as a top 10 defense in the nation. This year, they barely cracked the top 100 and are ranked as the 95th best defense in the nation, giving up 34.8 points a game. And so far in their first 4 games, Sean Clifford isn't playing as great as he had these past few seasons. I mean, he's still playing okay, but he's not playing amazing at all or very good. But the biggest place where they're hurting out on offense right now is the rushing game. Their leading rusher only has 207 yards for the season in 4 games and is only averaging 3.9 yards a carry. And when they're rushing the ball, they've only scored 4 touchdowns. Their second leading rusher is Sean Clifford with 169 yards and 1 touchdown. For their first game of the 2020 college football season, Penn State would take on a very, very underrated Indiana squad. Going into this game, Penn State was ranked as the 8th best team in the nation versus Indiana, who was unranked. But although Indiana was unranked in this game, Indiana right now is currently undefeated, and they are a top 10 team in the nation. Now, Penn State, they did fine on offense and defense, but the only bad thing on offense is that they had 3 turnovers in total, 2 from Sean Clifford throwing interceptions, and 1 from a fumble. But all in all, it really wasn't that bad of a game from Penn State. But they ended up losing 36-35 in overtime due to a very, very close play by Michael Penix Jr. stretching out and hitting the pylon just barely, but it was too hard to overturn, and Indiana ended up getting the 2-point conversion and ended up winning the game. In Penn State's next game, they would take on Ohio State, which everyone thinks is going to the college football playoff and will win the Big Ten, and even some thinking that they have the best quarterback in all of college football in Justin Fields, and people who even think Justin Fields will win the Heisman despite playing only a few games this season due to an altered schedule that the Big Ten has. Penn State would not win this game, to no one's surprise. They would end up losing 38-25, and the offense really wasn't that bad besides the 1 turnover. They had 325 total yards. The rushing game really wasn't the best for them at all. The rushing game was actually really bad this game, but the passing game was fine. But the defense was not very good. The defense gave up 526 total yards. Going into the next game, Penn State for the first time all season was unranked after falling to Ohio State and Indiana, starting off the season 0-2. In their next game, they would take on Maryland. And in this game, Penn State started off horrible. At halftime, they were losing 28-7. Penn State would make a little bit of a comeback in the 4th quarter, but it wasn't enough. They'd end up losing the game 35-19, and some considered it a pretty embarrassing loss the way they lost. Penn State actually had more total yards than Maryland in this game. They had 434 total yards compared to Maryland's 405. But the thing with Penn State that killed them is that they had 3 turnovers. For Penn State's next game, they would take on an 0-2 Nebraska squad that's been struggling these past few seasons under head coach Coach Frost. But Penn State, just like in the Maryland game, would get off to an extremely slow start. At halftime, Nebraska was winning 27-6. After a very bad first half for Penn State, they would start a comeback on Nebraska, but in the end, it wasn't enough, as they ended up losing 23-30 to Nebraska. And just like the Maryland game, Penn State would have more yards than Nebraska. Way more yards. Penn State in this game had a total of 501 yards compared to Nebraska's 298. But the difference was Penn State had more turnovers than Nebraska. Penn State had 2, Nebraska had 1, and Nebraska was better at keeping Penn State out of their end zone. And after that Nebraska game, Penn State, for the first time in a long time, would fall to 0-4. So far in the 2020 college football season, Penn State has played like one of the worst teams in all of college football. Not saying they are the worst team, but they just have not been playing good football overall. They're 0-4. In the rankings, they're the 109th best team in college football. They have a bottom-tier offense and a bottom-tier defense. Currently in the Big Ten right now, Penn State actually has the worst record out of all the teams in the Big Ten. They're the only team in the Big Ten that does not have a win yet. This Penn State squad has probably been one of the most disappointing squads in their whole school history, just because they have the talent to be good. They have the talent to win the games that they've played, except probably Ohio State. They were probably going to lose that one no matter what, just because Ohio State's just that powerful and always just is running the Big Ten as of recent, especially with Justin Fields. But they have the people to be 3-1, not 0-4. Yes, Micah Parsons opted out of the 2020 college football season, and Journey Brown had to medically retire, which sucks, but they have the people to be 3-1 and not 0-4. And the thing about this 2020 Penn State football team is that they brought back a pretty good amount of their key pieces from their 2019 season team. But that does not matter currently for this Penn State squad, as they're 0-4 and one of the most disappointing teams in all of college football. For Penn State to avoid having their first losing season since the 2004 college football season, they will have to win out the rest of their season, which they have 4 games. They take on Iowa at home, which Iowa has been playing some very good football recently, and they take on Michigan in Michigan, which is going to be a toss-up. Michigan, just like Penn State, has been struggling, but the thing with Michigan is that they have a win, although they've been sucking as well. And then they have to go travel to Rutgers and play Rutgers, which is not a guaranteed win anymore. Rutgers has been playing a lot better football this whole season with new head coach Greg Schiano trying to start back up the dynasty that they used to have. But, Rutgers is a lot better at football, especially compared to these last few seasons. They're actually staying in games and competing. And then their final game of the season, they take on Michigan State at home. Now, there is a chance that they do win out and do avoid a losing season, but I do not think that's going to happen. This is what's happening to Penn State football. Well, guys, this is the end of the video. If you guys liked the video, remember to smash that like button, turn on them post notifications, and subscribe for more videos. B. Kelly out.